This is Common Sense Generation. Common Sense Generation. Hi guys, you're watching Common Sense Generation. My name is Kądzielska-Koper, and I have with me here in the studio John Biggs, entrepreneur, author, and the head of TechCrunch for East Coast. Am I correct?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's talk about AI, and that's what's going on. Most of the people are right now using AI for writing their essays. It seems to be, it's very hard to distinguish if it was written by AI or not, especially at the universities. So it looks like the purpose of universities is almost gone if all of your essays are written by AI. So where are we going?
Well, I mean, let's think about the concept of education and AI. I mean, the educational system was designed in Victorian times to recreate a certain type of person over and over again who could be sent to, I don't know, India or Africa or the Middle East to recreate the idea of I don't know, British colonialism. You wanted to create little mini-me's of yourself that you could send out into the world, and they would know basically the same things. They would know their times tables. They would know how to add and subtract. They would know how to divide. They would know, I don't know, Longfellow. They would know Shakespeare, all this stuff. You wanted some kind of sort of cultural connection back to the mothership, and that's where we got our educational system.
They have certain morals as well.
No.
And they have a certain, because that comes with culture as well, the teaching of and development of soul.
No, that's not, I wouldn't. You can't argue that, because they're blowing people away with automatic machine guns down in India, and they all had learned the exact same thing.
But they were all setting as well schools there and some forms of education and creating. So I would say it's 2 points of the coin. But just knowing the fact that people do something immoral, it doesn't come out of their. It's not also legit. Say that it is because of their education. It was created. The education helped them figure out how to be especially immoral when it came to colonialism. Let's argue that. You can the idea that the sunset should never set on the British Empire was taught in schools, and that idea was passed on to folks in running diamond mines, folks running, I don't know, fighting Gandhi when he went to go get salt out of the sea, all that other good stuff that we articulate and we discuss when we discuss colonialism. That educational system created created the humans that spread that virus of colonialism throughout the world. Now that educational system is dying, and that's what's happening right now, and for good reason. It should die. The classics maybe should stick around. Maybe some of the culture aspects of these education could stick around. But a lot of the tools that you needed to be a good, surf murderer in the 1800s are gone. You don't need them anymore, because you have a calculator and you have a computer in your pocket, and you have AI now that can actually write intelligently for you and communicate what you're trying to communicate far quicker than you would be able to if you did it yourself. Well, at least you need to know how to read.
Yeah, well, you got to figure out how to read, but even it can read it out to you. I mean, think about it. You talked about your daughter with her phone. She watches videos. She's not sitting there reading Oliver Twist. She might watch a TikTok of Oliver Twist in 5,000 short snippets. But it's a different way of consuming, and it's not inferior. I know this guy Chris Dancy, a buddy of mine. He says that, look, we have something in our pocket that connects us with the universe in ways that were unimagined, and then also we're going to be connected to a intelligence in the universe that in ways that are unimagined. So what that gives us ultimately might be a more, if we're going to argue about morals, a more moral and accepting view on the world, because we see everything. We see people who are poor, we see people who are rich, we see people who are black or white, Polish, Hungarian, all that other good stuff.
Okay. Putting down aside the parts of morality and coming back more to technology as a development of AI, in this case, that tell us a little bit, because this is your unique knowledge which you have, how actually it's learning, and how does it work that it's gathering more and more information, that those systems are, let's say, in somehow form learning and developing all the time.
So you can't argue that the AI is learning. You can't argue that you can't even argue that it's thinking. It's essentially about as intelligent as the piano behind you right now. The piano can create different sounds because it's kind of programmed to make those sounds, and under the right situations, it can make something musical, something pleasant. AI right now is really, really lucky in that it can make something pleasant most of the time. It's like a flower. It's designed to make us look at it and be happy we looked at it. So what has happened is they've basically sucked in every single piece of writing, all my writing, probably all 10 of my books. I think they're all in Facebook's LLM. Every single post that I wrote for TechCrunch, every single post I wrote for Gizmodo, every single article that I wrote for New York Times, they stole it all. And that's what they did. Then they sent all that information to a bunch of people in third world countries, Africa primarily, paid them $1 an hour to look at all this junk. And it says, and they basically they had the humans train it. The prompt was draw a picture of a cat, and then you see a picture of a dog, and they would press no. They tries again. Looks like an alligator. No. Looks more like a cat. Yes. Looks more like a cat. Yes. It was positive reinforcement. You can also recreate that by simulating the situation. So you can give it the information and you can say, does this sound like Shakespeare? Compare it to Shakespeare. No. No. And it's constant. The trick here is that you need human intervention. You need humans to give this information.
Interesting.
What they've learned is that if you try to feed the AI generated content back into the AI, it starts to degenerate. It breaks down.
Oh, I see. So there was a human part
constant,
in it.
Yeah. And to it, that's why these guys need billions and billions of dollars. First off, the computing power necessary to run these things is massive. It's like it's dwarfing Bitcoin to a degree at this point. So, and plus you need all these humans that you have to pay pennies to do all this work for you.
But it's a huge amount of work.
Yeah, it's the fact that I'm able to give me an essay on the topic of, I don't know, architecture in, 1800s Austria or something like that. It can spit something out that sounds okay. It took billions and billions of dollars and decades of research, because this isn't new research. This is the only reason why it just came out right now is that we have computers that are a lot faster and are able to do it. And we had people who are willing to put all these computers into a room and spend all kinds of money to spit out this essay that I wanted.
Very interesting, and also not very often spoke about it, that it needed a human factor as well in it, how to create, and it is based on theft. The other thing is that, well, what I find is, it's still, whenever you want to, I'm writing articles as well, and I try to do it to see what result will be from it lack, of course, of some certain artistic elements still, and it's still not that vibrant, and very often, especially very consistent in this way that it doesn't differ. If it talks about the topic, it talks about it just in one way, and and when the human brain, of course, shows the different colors of it. The beauty of, let's say, reading Samson Augustine is he argues one argument for a first part of the text, and then he completely shifts his statement, and the AI is not still doing it. It argues only in one way, but it's still, of course, it's good enough for high school.
Yeah, well, you should never use AI to write something creative. You shouldn't. If you actually care about what you're writing, you should never use AI. In fact, nobody should use AI. Ultimately, that's a different question.
But good question. Let's
you should never use AI to generate images. That's complete theft, because the talent needed to make a nice an anime picture of a little doggy flying in the air is like far beyond most of our abilities. Most of us can write a garbage essay, but not all of us can make something pretty. So you should never use AI to generate images, because that's complete theft. And eventually it'll be video too, and they'll be able to copy your face, and you'll be saying stuff that you don't want that you never meant to say. So you should avoid that at all costs. I'm actually writing a manifesto about this. The idea of art and AI, and the importance of AI right now is as a tool to make it easier and quicker to do a little bit of research. So if I wanted to write an article about, I don't know, crypto, and I didn't want to sit there and have to look up like the in-depth how Ethereum works, I can get a paragraph out that kind of works. If you're a good writer, you can stick that paragraph in, make it a little more human, and then do it. If you're not a good writer, then you're just going to plop in what's there, and you're gonna be fine with it. And it's gonna, for all intents and purposes, it is fine. Plus all the SEO stuff associated with this. Like if you're an online writer, there's no way to sense or tell if something's written by AI. You can tell 100% if it's an image designed by AI. So the value there is that you can create all kinds of SEO stuff. You can create all kinds of content that's going to give you, I don't know, a few more eyeballs, etc. But does it have any heart or soul or anima? No, it absolutely doesn't.
I agree on this, and somehow even in reading, you feel something is artificial there. I don't know how to say it, but at least in a most basic form of this created by AI. But still, it is out there. It's developing. We can use it for some purposes. I guess it depends on an individual if it's moral, if it's not the purpose of doing it. But what you mentioned, an important note, is the fact that it is all based on the theft of human creativity, which was put out there in internet. Mm-hmm. And as I understand, so AI one day might take even this video podcast, take my face or your face, and put different content in it.
I mean, and it's going to happen, like, right? So we're stupid enough to allow it to happen. We're not a very smart species. So eventually, there's going to be a situation where we create a TV show that just constantly runs, and it's just like a bunch of people run. It's like Friends, but it never ends. And you just automatically generated friends, and this friend is generated by this AI. This friend is generated by this AI, and they talk to each other. We like it because it's like maybe it's funny. Who knows? But eventually it's going to happen, and we're going to be just fine with it, and we're going to be like, oh, okay, and we're not going to notice when it happens, and we're going to just get stupider and stupider because of it.
Well, you seem very, let's say, not very optimistic about the future.
I'm not. Remember, I'm not going to be optimistic about the future, but I'm also realistic about the future. That we're already convincing people of the stupidest stuff right now. All the QAnon stuff, all the conspiracy theories, that. A lot of the political environment is completely saturated with absolute garbage, and just trying to, I don't know, if you just want to be gay or lesbian in Poland, it's highly problematic. It's kind of difficult, and it's not because of anything you did. It's because of everything that your culture did, and we believe everything that we see. We see these, like, I don't know, we see these. Pedophiles are everywhere running around in the small town Poland trying to convert your kids, and that's all misinformation generated automatically. By various groups, and to allow that to happen, we're allowing it to happen all the time because we read Facebook, we look at TikTok, we just sit there and say, oh, well, maybe somebody said.
This is Common Sense Generation. If you like this channel, please subscribe, share, and comment. Your voice really matters. Let's say such things already are very, let's say, minority at least. In most of the countries, but it's all based on that we believe in certain things, but it's all based on emotions, of course, that we let our emotions to lead us to this extent that we see such picture and we don't want to at least take a step back and say, okay, what's really happening there? Or even if this happens,
it's about media literacy, right?
Yeah. So one thing, and the other thing is also controlling our judgment based on certain emotions which just happened, which of course is a very difficult thing. And yes, I agree that majority of people are mostly led by emotions, and this is also a huge problem of democracy, that those choices when it goes to the voting polls are very often based off emotions.
Well, I mean, the benefit of the technology, and this is where I can be optimistic, is that I can put myself in the shoes of somebody who's being misrepresented, or I can put myself in the shoes of somebody who's being attacked, or somebody who feels as though they're a minority, or feels that they've been injured by the world, and they can explain to me what's going on, and I can live my life just like them. I can watch them in their little house, eating their meals, just living with their family, and I can experience that. I wasn't able to do that up until probably even like the last 20 years. I mean, maybe you had TV shows of like, this is what it's like in Iceland, But now I can, like, I don't know, I know somebody in Iceland who's running around and going and buying I don't know, soft drinks, and is going on a hike or whatever. And they're gonna, and I can connect with those people. We've changed the way we consume media and the way we've created like stars, etc. And we've turned just regular social media people into stars, and that's good. Unfortunately, a lot of the people don't have that or don't see it that way, and they get stuck in a bubble and they start thinking, I don't know, conservatively or progressively or whatever you want to call it, and they get weird, and that's what happens. And the AI is going to make it even worse.
Well, we see how it goes. Of course, it's those already are assumptions of we have to test. But what we definitely see right now, especially for American elections, it is mostly emotions, and emotions are leading a lot of things. And they are triggered and created through internet, and especially through those short videos, where very often we cannot verify at all what's there. But still having a little bit of time and having you here with one personal question: do you have a 3D printer at home?
Yeah.
What can you do with it?
Not much.
Exactly. So not much. So why so? It's at the beginning was this prediction. Oh, you can print anything on it.
I mean, 3D printing was a fun idea when it first came out. It was the idea that you can make anything. You could feasibly make like a microphone stand or whatever. The problem is it's far cheaper and easier to like CNC this thing in bulk than to make it yourself. Like, again, we can make this microphone stand. It's pretty easy. It's just a couple parts. You just measure the parts or scan the parts, and you can do it. So that idea, until we have like a really good way to assemble molecules automatically, instead of like, I don't know, spraying out a little piece of plastic over and over again, then maybe we could do some kind of like, I don't know, Star Trek era stuff where we can just spit something out that works. But at this point, I mean, to a degree, you do have the ability to print active products where you could basically make a mug with wire inside of it and put little LEDs on there, but that's just stupid, right? So we don't really need that. It's good for prototyping. It's good for building. It's good for teaching, like platonic solids and stuff. Here's how to put together something. And it's good for like modeling stuff out, but it's not good for anything. It's not good for everybody, for any reason. So
it's very limited in this case, and mostly for. Interesting for you to mention this fact, but also, it seems like a Silicon Valley, where you were for such a long time based and had your professional career. It's a place for testing out so many what can work out for majority, what can work out for bigger amount of what app, what way, what technology, and then a small amount of that actually goes out there to the world.
Well, it's a place to distill good ideas, create something that works, and then completely destroy it. That's the way to think about it. You have a person in Silicon Valley, let's say Sergey Brin and what's his name, Larry Page. They got together and they made Google. It's a search engine. It's cool. You type something in and you find it. That's really nice. And do no evil is what their whole mission was. Ultimately, they created an engine to destroy almost every small business there is. They basically knocked out businesses because you basically have this need for SEO, search engine optimization. So if I'm selling shirts in Poland, nobody notices me unless I pay $5,000 a month or $100,000 a month even to get my shirts out into the world. So I have to make sure that I can make as many shirts as possible. So small mom and pops were destroyed by this. To a degree, you've also destroyed small town life because you've connected everybody. You've made everybody kind of upset that I don't have the things that they have in, I don't know, Shanghai. So I'm going to move to Shanghai. So I'm going to change my try to move, try to leave what I have and get something better because I've seen this thing that Google did. And then you have the business guys who come in and destroy everything because they want to make as much profit out of it. I knew the guys who started Instagram, and the guys who started Instagram were nice. They had a really fun idea. It was like, hey, let's put some pictures on the internet. Let's share them with each other. We can share with friends, and it's become pernicious. You're looking at a thing where where first off, it's misinformation can be spread, and second off, you have body image issues associated with this. If I'm skinny and pretty,
let's say soft porn legal app in the world.
But then again, it kind of opens that up to like somebody who's trapped in some kind of constrictive society, some kind of conservative society, and it gets to see something else, gets to see a different lifestyle. But the biggest problem is the business guys kind of made it so the most garbage floats to the top, and the interesting stuff kind of stays in the middle or falls to the bottom. So it's super hard to beat that algorithm 100 times, like most of the time.
Interesting as well. Funny thing how our life right now and work is so much run by algorithm, which we very often don't understand at all. Or maybe it seems like those algorithms already have their own life. But just for someone who, was never there and never met, how life is, how we are surrounded by technology right now. How would be your advice to sort of what you're using, for example, or say your advice, what to use or what not to use, or how to at least be safe there in the world of technology and the internet?
Well, at this point, don't assume you have privacy, right? So I think I've always said that we're all going to be naked on the internet for 15 minutes at some point, like quite literally. So instead of being famous on the internet, assume you have no privacy. So act accordingly. If you want to keep something private, write it down in a notebook. Get off the grid as much as you can. Also, there's an app called OneSec that I use sometimes, and it basically locks out social media, locks out your things. I have time locks on a lot of my social media because it just reminds me, okay, you've been on this for like 15 minutes, get off. It's a dopamine fix. What's the most Silicon Valley startups attack one of the 7 deadly sins: greed, gluttony, lust, avarice, all that other good stuff. Lust is Tinder, greed is Coinbase, and like Robinhood, all those things. So understand that, they're hitting you in places that you're most vulnerable. And if you don't control that, for your kids, one of the best things you should do is lock down the phone all day long and dole out little hours of access as opposed to a full day of access. And never, ever, ever give a young child, somebody who's still in the stroller, a phone and just have them sit there and stare at Dora for 5 hours. It's completely ridiculous. People are doing it. And my buddy Chris Dancy would argue that, it's fine because, we watch TV. Well, I watched TV when I was younger for hours at a time, and I'm completely nuts, but that's a whole different story. But what we're doing with these kids is highly problematic. So don't do that either. But again, just assume that this technology is going to be integrated into your life forever and for the rest of time. Don't do anything stupid outside anymore. There's cameras everywhere. This kid came up to our house once and he smacked the front door, and I had video from 2 different cameras. I had 2 different cameras of his face, and I posted it on a group on Facebook and said, "Oh, by the way, is this like some kid anybody knows?" And immediately his dad called me and said, "Yeah, sorry, my kid was a moron." You kids can't have quote unquote fun anymore in that way, and they can't be anonymous anymore. So you have to assume that you're being watched at all times.
Well, John, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And I see you're so much in depth and you so much understand that if most of us had just 5% of your knowledge, we would be much safer and much more wise on the internet. This was John Biggs on Common Sense Generation. Thank you for watching our podcast. And I also thank Polish National Foundation for making this show possible. This is Common Sense Generation.